Elon Musk has declared that USAID is beyond repair and efforts are underway to shut it down. Reports indicating that the Trump administration has recently removed key security officials at USAID, further intensifying many of these tensions there as well. Now, with the US foreign aid at risk, global programs for health and humanitarian assistance could now face severe cuts. Democrats are not happy about any of this.
We are witnessing a constitutional crisis. We talked about Trump wanting to be a dictator on day one, and here we are. This is what the beginning of dictatorship looks like.
As my colleague said, it's not only a gift to our adversaries, but trying to shut down the Agency for International Development by executive order is plain illegal. It is illegal.
And he goes on to hit out at Elon Musk there as well. Now, since World War II, the United States has played a pretty strong role around the world. Essentially, after Europe lost all of their empires, you think of the UK, it was the US that took over, has done pretty well out of business, I might add, thanks to it. Coca-Cola is sold everywhere. McDonald's is pretty much everywhere now. So the US, we can't say, hasn't done well out of globalization on America's terms. But now Donald Trump is trying to wind it all back, as we've been talking about. And then there's the aspect of US aid, foreign aid, which goes to programs, everything from HIV treatments, and it is a lot of US companies that supply HIV treatments as well. What are your views on this?
So it could certainly, have those ramifications that you were talking about, because, if there are businesses who are, producing this, and it's usually happening in other countries. But it was really fascinating that Elon Musk, of course, he's heading up the Department of Government Efficiency, and he went on an X space, and he was basically saying, if you have a worm in an apple, you could take it out, but if you have a bowl full of worms, what are you going to do? And so he's saying that the USAID is beyond repair, which is quite a statement. So it's now fallen under the State Department. We know that Secretary of State Marco Rubio is taking a look at things. There was an email that was sent out to the workers, and they were told to stay home today, work remotely. So they're really doing a deep dive. They want to see what's happening. And some of the, things that are being looked at, the money has been spent on in other countries. Some of these types of parades or cultural, situations, parties. We were also, as the press, told that nothing, was denied, that everything was just told to be approved, to go through. So when you are watching lawmakers on Capitol Hill in the session, for the sessions for Congress, as they are trying to approve budgets, and they're looking at, the trillions and trillions of dollars that they're in debt, at some point, there has to be a pullback. Something has to start to get cut. Otherwise, then, the insanity that you're living just continues on. And so it's just more money that you're racking up. And so it's not a fun job, definitely a dirty job to try to clean that up. Of course, everybody would love to have unlimited spending and to help everybody around the world. But unfortunately, that's just not the reality. So really interesting to see what happens to that agency.
Yeah, well, let's get some facts here. So USA disbursed about $72 billion in 2023. The agency, the world's largest single donor, funding global health, disaster relief and anti-corruption programs. What's wrong with anti-corruption programs, disaster relief and funding global health?
Nothing's wrong with those. It's all of the other things that they're also going towards. We were even listening to President Vladimir Zelensky saying that there was money missing that he can't account for that was part of some of this aid. And so that's the big question, when the money goes missing and you can't find it. So that's, clearly something that will be very interesting to see.
But if they're talking about shutting it down because it's inefficient, I mean, obviously it's really hard to find out where the money goes. And I've watched a lot of the reaction to what Zelensky said there as well. And Zelensky previously has said we don't actually get money per se. What we get is weapons, and those weapons are built in the United States, and every single state in the United States manufactures weapons. Really, it's a socialist policy by the US government for workers in these different states to build weapons to keep demand going. And that's where so much of the money is going. And we'll get back to that in a minute. You mentioned Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. Here's his view.
Well, look, my frustration with USAID goes back to my time in Congress. It's a completely unresponsive agency. It's supposed to respond to policy directives of the State Department, and it refuses to do so. So the functions of USAID, there are a lot of functions of USAID that are going to continue, that are going to be part of American foreign policy, but it has to be aligned with American foreign policy. I said very clearly during my confirmation hearing that every dollar we spend and every program we fund, that will be aligned with the national interest of the United States.
I'd imagine that one of the things that they would have a real problem with, Veronica, is the fact that these agencies have a tendency to become culturally woke, to become culturally progressive perhaps, and to, I guess, the activists take over. What do you think?
Well, there was the answer to your question right there from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, talking about how he was a lawmaker in Congress and asked for these answers. You know, where's this money going? And they wouldn't answer. So I don't think that you would unlimitedly just, continue to give money and to not know where it's going. That's fiscally irresponsible, and it can't continue, especially, when the question is who's paying for it. And the United States is already having a lot of problems, and they're looking at the debt ceiling and what's going to happen. And that's something that we're going to see start to happen on Capitol Hill very soon, as they, want to try to balance that budget. So, it's unfortunate in that, of course, people would love to help everybody around the world, but it's just not a reality.
Yeah, the Great Reset is underway.